minutes long term, like a Lotzir Brooks. However, I also want to go through some guys that I think these are guys that you just need to watch out for, whether they be newer guys or guys that are just upcoming in the rotation that I thought had big games and guys that are going to be hard to keep off the field, or at least when they're on the field, you're going to have to watch out for them. And the first one is if we go with the offense first, a guy like Keelan Russell, right? Obviously, he's the one that you kind of know with being a starting quarterback. He's a guy, or being the elite quarterback coming in, he's a guy that it just feels different when he spins the football, right? He's a guy that anytime that Keelan kind of steps on the field, I know a lot of people are going to be very excited and just knowing what he can do with the football in his hands, right? But that's an easy one. Then you go to a guy like A.K. Deer. I thought that A.K. Deer, obviously having that huge run at the end of the game, but he's a guy that, I think that especially when Jam Miller comes back, you're not going to see A.K. Deer unless it's just in a crazy blowout. You've got too many guys in front of him with Kevin Riley and Dre Washington and Richard Young, right? It's a pretty stacked running back rooms. I just don't think you're going to have a ton of chances for A.K. Deer to get the football if it's not a blowout. But he is a guy that long term is going to make huge impact on this team. He is going to be somebody that is going to be a very, very good running back long term. And he is a guy that you're just going to have to watch out for because I think that, not this year, but like next year, I could really see A.K. Deer, making some major waves. Then we go to our receivers room. Some of the guys that I thought that impressed me the most in this one, Lotzir Brooks, but I don't think that you're going to keep him off the field. I think he's kind of a situation of he did play mostly because Ryan Williams was out. He played more in the slot where Ryan played last game. But this is a situation of Lotzir Brooks is not going to be able to be kept off the field. He's just too good of a talent. He's just too shifty of a player. He's a guy that Alabama will be getting the football more. So Lotzir Brooks is a guy that anytime you see him on the field, kind of knowing where he's at, accounting for him is something you're going to want to be kind of aware of. Rico Scott's another one. He's a guy that I know Clint Lamb kind of talked about as his wide receiver four. I thought Rico Scott overall has done a pretty good job. But those two guys are kind of, in my mind, the kind of next two wide receivers when you think outside of the top three of Jeremy, Isaiah Horton, and Ryan Williams. Those are going to be your other two receivers that are going to make huge headways. Again, knowing where Cuevas is, he's such an elite catching threat and what he's done and how he's played that tight end position. He's been a really, really good player. He was somebody that had a really good game against Florida State, and I think that he's continuing to have a good game. And he's somebody that I think will really help the running game and the passing game just because of how his ability to catch. And Mbakwe also, caught a ball. I'd be very curious to see what kind of role he plays. He's somebody that is an elite talent, but I do think that there's a lot of people in front of him, so it's not somebody who I would expect to make a substantial impact this year running the football, catching the football, but he is somebody that it might not shock me if next year, he has a larger impact on the team, especially catching the football in the wide receiver room and kind of what he's able to do. Then when we move over to the other guy, and I mentioned him earlier, was Michael Carroll. He's the other lineman that I thought that he got in early and kind of replaced Wilkin Formby around the same time that Austin Mack came in that second quarter, kind of to help push along that competition as well. And I thought that Michael Carroll played really, really well. I thought that the way that he was, his movement in the run game, I thought was really good. I thought how he pass blocked was really good. I thought that Michael Carroll is a guy that is, again, someone that maybe he doesn't fully supplant Wilkin Formby, but he is a situation of next year he's a day one starter. Like, really, really good tackle. He's somebody that I think will play more this season, maybe not just a mop-up duty. It wouldn't shock me if he does get some other playing time, and it's hard to keep him off the field just because of how good a lineman he is. But he's somebody that I really do expect to have a big season for Alabama. Then when we move over to the defensive side of the ball, I think that there are some names that kind of immediately popped for you. The first one was Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. I know he got ejected for what they called targeting. I don't know that I would have called it targeting. Did the helmets hit? Sure, but it really felt like he led with the shoulder and the helmet contact was accidental. Massive hit. Just he forced a fumble. Drake Kirkpatrick did a really good job, I thought, yesterday when he got on the field and really, is somebody that I think is going to obviously play very well for Alabama long term. Obviously, that name is something that makes a lot of people feel old, knowing that his dad was coached by Nick Saban. But I digress. I thought that you had some other guys that really played well. Steve Ballo, Steve Ballo. I don't want to mess up his last name, but I thought that he had a really good game. Again, a guy that I thought played really good on that defensive line. Yonze Pierre, he's somebody that's getting starting minutes at this point, but he is somebody that has done very well at the defensive line. I would really like to see him kind of finish out some sacks and finish out some plays, but I thought that he's been doing really good. QB Reese, he's a name that from that linebacker position, I think that QB Reese is going to be a linebacker that's going to play a long time for Alabama. They talked about his kind of dad being just a super elite athlete for, I believe it was Winfield. But, QB Reese, forced a fumble and recovered a fumble in this one. This was a situation where I thought that QB Reese was, one of the better linebackers on the field, especially when he was on the field. Then, of course, you had your Dijon Lees out there, Cameron Howard and Cam Calhoun. You had some of your transfers that came in and played some pretty big minutes, right? I thought that overall the defense, you really saw a lot of names that really popped for you. The big one for me also was Renaud. I mentioned him earlier, but Jordan Renaud, it really felt like multiple times the pursuit that you saw out of him on the defensive line. He was that number 11 I just saw popping over and over and over again. So these are some names or some numbers and names that I just would keep an eye on, especially when they're on the field, because they're playmakers, right? Would I expect maybe Dijon Lee to have a huge play every game? No. But you need to know that number 5. You need to know that, elite 6'4" corner that's your freshman that, when he gets on the field, obviously he got, put in a bad position against Florida State, gets burnt. Yes, it happened. But, he is a guy that long-term is going to be a very huge impact to Alabama. And you just kind of need to recognize when he's on the field, because I think that he is somebody that will make a long-term impact for Alabama. Renaud, all these guys, I think what they're able to do on that defensive side of the football, they're just kind of, you need to be aware of them, because I think with the way that Alabama especially was able to rotate guys in and out in this game, and how they even rotated guys in that Florida State game, you're going to see some numbers that you're maybe, who is that guy, right? And some of these are like, oh, that guy's really good. We got to watch out and see what he does, because I think in multiple impacts, these guys are going to be able to make kind of game-breaking plays just in that one moment. And that's really all it takes, right? When you're talking about a defense, with the way that we're going to try to keep the eyes on the football and try to, pressure the quarterback and everything that they're trying to do with that Swarm D, I think that being able to have some of these freshmen that are going to be or transfers, they're going to be able to make a pretty large impact in the time that they're on the field, is something that you're just going to have to be very careful of. So that's the only thing I would mention. Like I said, there's quite a few freshmen and quite a few newcomers, so to speak. I know on the defensive side of the ball, some of these guys aren't newcomers. They're freshmen they're sophomores and juniors that maybe just haven't had a ton of playing time just yet. But I think that overall, these guys have done a really, really good job. I liked what I saw. Obviously, it's Louisiana Monroe. You got to do it against Wisconsin. You got to do it against Georgia. But at the end of the day, you can only play the teams on your schedule, and Louisiana Monroe was next. So very happy with what I saw and very excited for this Wisconsin game. It's going to be coming up at 11 o'clock on Saturday. As always, as I mentioned, if you are interested for the breakdown of that Wisconsin game, that's going to be coming out on Thursday. I'll record it on Wednesday afternoon, and then I will drop that episode on Thursday. I'll be sure to include any tidbits or anything that's talked about in the press conference. It's going to be happening on Monday. I know they do the week of press conference. I will be sure to watch that with all the coordinators and Kalen DeBoer and see if anything specifically is mentioned, and I'll be sure to talk about that when I record the podcast on Wednesday to come out on Thursday. We will break down that Wisconsin game. Then just a little bit of a programming heads up. My plan is next week with the off week, I am going to do that special episode with Max Barr, talking all things college basketball for the SEC. So if you are interested in the SEC basketball and the content surrounding that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I really do appreciate it, and appreciate all the new subscribers and all the new support. And I will catch you in the next episode. Peace.